The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Welcome to your Health and Wellness Hour, sponsored by Luminosity Wellness Center here in Las Vegas. Coming to you from the studios of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting. Our goal is to incite and ignite all your senses and curiosities. So sit back, relax, open your mind and your heart, and enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Health and Wellness Hour. My name is Abra McGrath Alcazar. I just added that on there. I'm practicing, thank you. And we're here at the Luminosity Wellness Center here in Northwest Las Vegas, Nevada. And today we're speaking with one of my favorite people in Las Vegas of all time. Let me just put it that way.
Awesome. Thank you.
I tell people that, I use you for that, just by the way.
Thank you.
Shane Stuart is joining us today, and Shane has been an integral part of helping transform our community on so many levels. And as he has gone through his transformations and metamorphoses himself, living many lifetimes within one lifetime, the guy is ever evolving and a complete inspiration. And I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for those kind words.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I also have Jeff Renel here with us. Renel. Dang, I screwed up every time.
It's all right.
I'll get names right. Jeff is here. We did an interview last week about his state of healing and his up-and-coming show that's been really taken off called Consciously Rising. And I thought it would be a great panel for us today to just kind of like spitball and learn about each other here on the show. I know a lot about Shane, but I've been wanting to connect you guys for quite some time, and I'm really happy you're here on my show today to connect.
Good to connect.
Good to connect, yes, for sure.
So,
thank you for having me back, by the way.
You're welcome. So we're going to start with some introductions. Shane, I can never nail you down long enough to get you. You're so in the moment. You're so just you're living the dream, man. You literally are living the dream. So tell us about some of the projects you're doing and what inspired that.
Well, my newest big project is called Panacea, and it's opened up about 7 months ago. And Panacea is a health and wellness bar that we serve plant-based food, and we have elixirs and smoothies, and took a different spin on the whole nightlife scene. So we tried to create a conscious nightlife. So instead of bartenders coming in and serving alcohol, we have craft mixologists and flair bartenders coming in the evening, flipping drinks and serving mocktails instead of replacing the alcohol with herbal tinctures and elixirs and herbs that have been extracted to such a potency that it can target specific areas of the body. And Panacea is something that has kind of evolved over the last 15 years of being in health and wellness, and by far the greatest, funnest project that I've ever created. It embodies bringing in community, giving people a platform for them to teach, for them to give their message, and just connecting with the Las Vegas community in such a way that we've been able to bring so much more people to a healthier lifestyle just because of having this beautiful stage to stand on. And then also within the last 2 years of my life, I've been really diving deep into other areas of plant medicine. So 2 years ago, I was afforded the opportunity to experience ayahuasca, which is a beautiful plant that they use for healing PTSD, addictions, all kinds of stuff. But really what it is it's a tea that's brewed. Traditionally goes back tens of thousands of years. It's part of the indigenous culture in Peru and Brazil. And it activates your pineal gland and is loaded with a chemical called dimethyltryptamine. It's a chemical that's released when we're born, when we dream, and especially when we die. They say that's where we get the experience of the white light coming at us, is when the DMT is released from our pineal gland. But I've always been into the healing aspects of plants, getting brought in originally from a physical standpoint. How, I've also really been into conspiracy theories, which I've tamed down a little bit on that. But when I started learning about these alternative healing clinics that were popping up all over the world, it really triggered me, pushed a button that, well, how come in our culture we're not talking about these healing power of plants and how somebody can take their health into their own hands and get off pharmaceuticals.
Exactly.
So that's what made me put on a microphone, go back to nutrition school, and was really driven to teach people, this is how you do it, this is how you take care of yourself, this is what I've learned. And but anyway, everything's coming full circle. I know that I'm just still scratching the surface, and and there's a lot more to come, whatever that means. But that's it. Those are the projects.
That's really great.
So what I mean with ayahuasca too is I've been organizing ceremonies, having people come in that are dealing with any kind of issue you can possibly think of, and bringing in these facilitators from all over the world to come in and legally do these ceremonies outside of the country where it's legal.
To facilitate it.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions about that really
not at all.
quick? Because I've been led to start to research some of this stuff lately, but I haven't got too deeply into it. But I'm just wondering, how does something like that actually benefit somebody with a trauma like that? How does it release it? That's what I'm just wondering.
Yeah. So it releases it in a way that you
Releases
go deep.
what specifically? Just remind our
whatever we hold on to, fears, anxiety, really what it all boils down to, and what all of it boils down to, and this is why my message in health and wellness has changed so dramatically, is the lack of self-love that people have, the lack of self-love that we have.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all
about.
about.
The last one, yeah.
So ayahuasca, I would say, one of the things I've heard in the past, and I don't know who said it, I quote it all the time, so I should really figure out who said this.
It's
But
all right. It's all right. Maybe we'll know.
We'll figure
Our
it out.
producer might.
When the definition of hell is when you pass on and you're greeted by the person that you could have been. And
Oh, wow.
ayahuasca is
Love
very
that.
much that. Ayahuasca,
Wow.
I know that within the indigenous culture, they believe that she is a mother ayahuasca, and she's a spirit that comes back to teach us and to pull us back into our natural self. But I think really what it is just this chemical reaction that allows you to see you for who you really are. And you're able to, at a glance, to see the potential of yourself to what you could be.
Like
And
Ayn Rand, like an objective version of yourself.
an objective version of yourself, in a perfect world when ego is
Right.
totally shed, and you get to
Fear
look at
is
your
released from your tissues, and
Yeah.
you just no muscle memory of fear.
No, you don't release it. You go right into it. So
Okay.
you go. So a lot of the fears that we're triggered from that causes a ripple effect that we have an ongoing battle throughout our lifetime,
Right.
or all come from our childhood. It's the first time that we felt loss. It's the first time we felt fear. It's the first time we felt anxiety, and this medicine allows you to go back into those moments and stay there and work with it, and you start to learn it uncovers the subconscious and allows you to bring all that stuff up to the surface so you can look at it face on, and you spend an evening with medicine music being played, done in a very beautiful ceremonial setting where you're going safe, and you're going through you're going through real healing. And so that's where my message in food changed so much, is because I always thought, teach people about eating healthy, and that's all you have to do. Teach them about the chlorophyll and the thing. Teach them about the vitamins. Teach them about all the chemicals they put in the food.
But that
and
was
then
just the physical part.
that's just the physical part.
And the reason that's not the total answer there is because of the way that the body holds the stress. Because if the body is stressed, then it's not going to release certain enzymes. It's not going to absorb the foods in certain ways. So
Right.
you can
The
be as healthy as
momentum
you want
is
to
in
be, but
the
if
wrong
you're a stressed
direction.
person, you're not absorbing all the nutritions, and
Right.
that's why it's not
Right.
the answer. It has to be the trio effect, where you have not only exercise, but the nutrition and the emotional
And-
aspect with it as well too.
And the fourth, we're adding the spiritual. We got that in there too. You're doing the collective. That's amazing.
I just really believe that the reason why people don't take their health in their own hands is because it's like having a car you don't like. You're not gonna, if it's a car you hate driving and you spill a Slurpee onto it, you may not rush to the first car wash to go get it cleaned up. So once again, for me, it always goes back to self-love, lack of self-love. I think that we eat within our vibration, and totally am on board now with the philosophy is that first you heal the soul heals the mind, and the mind heals the body. Once you fall in love with this all over again, eating cacao and greens and all the things that you know that is going to build this beautiful, keep this beautiful temple strong, is going to be effortless because you can see the bigger picture.
And
It's the love that drives you.
Yeah.
And you have
to
balance.
keep being better. And that's it. That's where I teach people too that it's like once you learn to truly love yourself, then you truly know how to love the people around you. You know how to just support them in the right ways too, because me loving you guys and bringing you to your best helps me to get to my best too.
Absolutely.
And
The
so,
reciprocity.
Yeah, the love part
Absolutely.
is the key to everything right there.
It really is.
So that's what we're doing here at the Health and Wellness Hour is we just grab people. I literally yanked Shane and brought him in here today. I yanked him. and we help just create that ripple, or we're riding a wave ourselves, and when we feel something that's good and we're reaching for that better feeling, we want to share that so bad. It's like our cups runneth over. We just get so freaking excited about it. And so we're implementing just a simple daily practice. And what Jeff talked about last week and what Shane reiterated today is self-love. So we'll be right back after a few minutes from our sponsor. My name is Abram McGrath, and we're here with Shane Stuart. And Jeff, say your name.
Renel.
Thank you.
Put her hand in mine and said she loved me so very long ago.
Hey, how's it going? You can just throw your name up on the list and we'll get right to you. Yeah, thanks, dude. Thanks for coming in. Let me just clean this spot up and then we'll get right to you. You can hop on up if you're ready. Welcome to the shop. You need a shave too, though, right?
I don't know if I would accept a shave from somebody who's unshaven.
I look like a child when I have a clean-shaven face.
No, I wouldn't want a child cutting my hair. And I'd also need to know that the blades have been sanitized thoroughly.
I can guarantee you that the barbicide is 100% authentic, and these are sanitized tools I'm using.
Well, what is
Have you ever gotten a straight razor shave?
Is there any other kind? This stuff smells like Irish Spring.
Brings me back to childhood.
Did you grow up in a chemical plant? Hurry up.
Yeah, well, Now you look like $1 million.
Well, that's your job. I'll be sure and mention your facility during my show tonight.
Welcome back to the Health and Wellness Hour here at Luminosity Wellness Center. My name is Abram McGrath Alcazar, and I have some wonderful guests here today, and we're going deeper. We're talking about what it takes to execute your accountability when it comes to taking your health back in your own hands. We have to be responsible. We have to be responsible for our own wellness. And it gets overwhelming to people, and so we just try to break it down and simplify it. And so I have Shane and Jeff here, and we're getting deep. Shane's going to tell us a little bit more about his road and how that has come to this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff, you also had a point you'd like to get Shane talking about too. So.
Yeah, if you want to go to that right now, yeah. But I think one thing he was hitting on that was very important is that as a person, you need to take your own health into your hands. Mm-hmm. Everybody's wanting this free medicine and all that stuff too, and that's great if we get that and everything, but it's only going to go so far. You have to take your health into your own hands, and again, it goes back to love, like he's saying. How much do you love yourself? How much are you going to go out and push yourself to go exercise when you're tired? Mm-hmm. Go, instead of going to fast food, making sure you go home and eat the right stuff instead of cutting that corner. How much do you love yourself to do these different things?
Lifestyle modifications.
Yeah, Western medicine is beautiful thing thing that's happening right now with Western medicine. It's really going to a new level that does benefit us in a lot of ways. I mean, if we get in terrible accidents, we find out we have cancer and it's really bad and we have to go to emergency surgery. Beautiful stuff, and beautiful things are happening there, but get to the core of the issue. Why did I get cancer? Why did I call in this certain disease or disorder and stuff like that? Why do I have this? And get to the core of it. The food is a big thing too. If we're not eating healthy food, it definitely takes us to that thing, because if we're not eating healthy food, then it could lead to the wrong vibrations that lead to the wrong emotions too, because different
angry
food,
liver, we talked about it,
different foods hold different type of emotions to it too, so
Right.
it's very important. I don't want the interview
No,
about me,
no,
because he has so many interesting things to say, but
starvation
yes.
on so many levels, and that's where we're getting at,
Yeah.
is that everyone is starving for something, whether it be emotional connection, healing, where do we go, and how did you get there?
Well, how I got there was I originally did not set out for a career in health and wellness. I went to school for film and went to film school and started making movies, and actually got pretty lucky early on, because one of the first projects that I produced got a theatrical release and played in New York, Chicago, Miami.
That
got
was
to walk the
self-medicated?
self-medicated. And self-medicated was kind of loosely based on, not kind of, but was loosely based on my friends and I growing up in Las Vegas. And, I had a very hard upbringing because of myself. I got to go to a school where a lot of affluent families sent their children, and my parents were amazing, but I was not particularly good at sitting in class and paying attention. I have major hyperactive attention deficit disorder. So rather than let my self-esteem be destroyed by my grades, I got attention other ways, by acting up in class and doing whatever that I could do to find that
Channel that energy.
to find that love that I was missing in my life. And so I made that movie, and then I made another documentary called Heart of the King, which was about the worst Elvis impersonators on the planet. They didn't have,
I love this story.
They didn't have the look, they didn't have the voice, but they had the heart to go and pursue what they love. And so
Isn't that great?
unraveling the onion at the end of the movie, you're just like, oh my God, I hope these guys make it, even though there was no chance. And so the basis of that documentary was we all have dreams, but we just have a different means of realizing our dreams. And after that, I was working for a TV show called Local Hero. And Local Hero was amazing because I got to travel all over the world, and I got to go to rural parts of the country I would have never gone to otherwise. And there was this one particular time where I went to Thailand, and we went to Chiang Mai, and then trekked to the jungle all the way to Mesot on the border of Burma, where we were trekking syringes and prosthetic limbs and all these different things that one could use in a hospital setting that she probably was in dire need of. And when I got there, I saw this little lady all by herself running this whole hospital, and she had these runners that would go over to Burma and bring over these refugees that had stepped on landmines or they had malaria. And I saw just what an incredible impact she was making. And then I started really reflecting on my own life, thinking how long it takes me to make a movie, and what is the payoff after it's done. I mean, going right to Netflix was cool, but I wasn't, I was still struggling to make ends meet. So at the same time as this was happening, in between these two jobs, in between this job, I was working for a company called Vitamix. And I was they gave me a sheet, what to go off is, this is what you say, this is how you make a milkshake, this is how you do it. And I saw somebody put carrots into an ice cream. And I went, oh my gosh. And I saw little kids eating it. And I'm like, well, if you can put carrots into an ice cream, I wonder what else you can put into an ice cream before they start to notice that it's in there.
Right.
So I came up with my own recipe book, and Vitamix did not like it at all. They were sending secret shoppers on me and all kinds of stuff. Although my sales I got Salesman of the Year. I was the best salesman for Vitamix. But people would go home and try to recreate these and be like, how come my spinach ice cream doesn't taste like his spinach ice cream? Here's my machine back. And self-love. So I created an ebook called How to Eat Your Vegetables and Not Know It. And
Cool.
And where that last story I was talking about with the local hero and the hospital and everything else was, I really wanted to find some higher purpose in my life.
Absolutely.
I love talking in front of people. People say I have the gift of gab, but I don't want to just use that to talk about myself, even though that's what we're doing right now.
It's okay.
But I wanted
Look
to
straight at the camera when you're doing that.
Yeah. But
show those baby blues.
but I really wanted to
Purpose.
have purpose.
Purpose, absolutely.
And so I went back to school for nutrition. My message just got deeper. It
Right.
got more sincere. It got
Che
more.
Guevara Motorcycle Diaries. This is where you're at. This
Yeah.
is like, this is what's happening in the world. What can I do about
What
it?
can I do to help it? Yeah. And so So I guess what really got me, the number one thing that pulled me in and said, okay, this is your life for the rest of your life, so get ready, was there was this lady, I was doing this show at this health food convention, and there was this lady that would show up every single day, and she would stay throughout all my demonstration. I'd get a big sea of people, and then they dispersed, and then I get on the mic again, start all over, and they leave again, and she just sat right there. And I finally got off, and I said, look, you must have been getting a lot from this. I go, you've been sitting here for the last 3 hours. And she goes, you don't remember me, do you? And I said, no, I don't remember you. And she said, well, I was here last year. And except last year I came in a wheelchair, and she has terrible fibromyalgia. And she goes, and I listened to everything that you told me to do. I got the Vitamix. I started juicing. I started changing my diet. I read the books that you told me to read. And she goes, so I wanted to walk in here today and say, and it always makes me tear up.
Oh, my,
and she goes, And she goes, I wanted to say thank you. And it was that purpose I was looking for. I got it. I understood. I'm like, just by me getting to do what I love, by sharing my message, by going and educating myself, even if it was just that one person, how many more could I reach on this level? And so I was, right after that took place, I was really planning on staying in Los Angeles and having a career there and doing the public speaking thing and everything else.
Right.
But I was afforded another opportunity to come back to Vegas and open up my first juice bar with all these things that I was doing. And that turned into a juice bar called Greens and Proteins, and which also serves food. And Greens and Proteins was amazing because it was for the first time I was able to take these recipes and find a home for them and allow everyone to come in. But what was so interesting about going from Los Angeles to Las Vegas was they weren't as savvy to eating as healthy as they were in Los Angeles. So when they saw me put spinach in a frappuccino, or I was, which we call the veggiecino, or making these green drinks, people were like, "Oh, but dude, what is going on?"
Just ahead of
They're
your
used to
time.
Jamba Juice, tropical smoothie, everything else. And so I would go out with the sample tray and be like, "If you can tell me what vegetables are in here, I'll give you a free smoothie." And they would guess, like, "I can't taste any. It tastes like a chocolate shake." And I'm like, "You have spinach, you have avocado, you have collard greens." They're going, "Oh my gosh!" And so slowly but surely, it started to catch on. And I was getting ready to go back to Los Angeles when I got caught wind of a project that was happening downtown with Tony Shea and the Downtown Project.
Right.
And they said, we're looking for a juice bar, and we're having a contest. And the winner will get to have their juice bar located right here downtown off of Carson and 6th Street. Well, the contest had already been going on. It was on the last final round.
Wow.
And I happened to be doing an event at First Friday with a microphone on. I had all these kids in front of me, and I'm showing them how to make spinach ice cream. Sorry, my phone's going off.
It's
But making spinach ice
Not
cream.
right now, Paul.
Sorry, Paul. And one of the guys from Downtown Project said, he goes, "Did you know about this juice bar contest that was going on?" I said, "No, I didn't. I didn't know about it." And he goes, "Well,
Who was that?
his name was Rob Solomon, and I don't think he's with Downtown Project
That's all
anymore.
right, but yeah.
But he said, okay, we're back on. So he said, I'm going to get you on. Let's see how you do. He goes, let's see if they'll even let you on at this point. They let me on. I made a soup. I made an ice cream. I made a juice. And then I found out 1 week later, on April Fool's Day, that they said you won,
Of
and
course.
you're going to have your own spot. So what was so great about that opportunity was Downtown Project was just all about allowing the entrepreneur to do their thing.
Absolutely.
And so I was able to go in. I'm like, all right, so if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right. I'm going to find local farms. I'm going to find superfoods. I'm going to go and get my food from the farmer's market. I'm going to create like an educational hub where people can come in here and learn about eating healthy and bring tour groups through here. And all of that came to life for me. And it came to life for me in a project, the Downtown Project, revitalizing a spot of downtown that nobody wanted to touch with all these other entrepreneurs and dreamers and techies and all these people, all visionaries,
yeah.
all coming together. It was such a great experience. And And then I met my partners for Panacea, and I've been really like this idea of creating a bigger space where I can create a community hub where people can come in, they can learn, people can come and teach. We would have classes, we would do all this stuff. Has finally come to life in Summerlin, and I chose Summerlin because that's where most of my clients were coming from. They're taking the 95 and jumping off and going to Grassroots. So I'm like, Summerlin is definitely gonna be my spot. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell up to now.
And I met him at Tony Shea's first restaurant for himself. He had done all these backings of other incubations and entrepreneur, for Container Park. And I was at the Perch, and my coworker's like, "Oh my gosh, have you been to this juice place?" And I was like, "What juice place?" There's a place in town that I haven't been. And yep, I go over and meet Shane, and I fell in love with the whole idea. And I was taking people in there for tours, like everybody I knew I had to talk to about. So that's how we met.
One thing I did leave out, because going back to that story with the lady with the fibromyalgia, that was something that just triggered me enough to where I'm like, okay, I give up. This is what I'm doing. Yeah. But by surrendering to that, to going with my gut feeling instead of doing what I think I should do, instead of going, oh, I went to film school, what am I doing? I was able to really take a step back and allow life to lead me, the universe, the direction I was to go. And what a powerful lesson that was for me, because by surrendering to the voice within, I was able to not only go there, but now I teach health and wellness inside the prisons. I go to every school in Clark County and teach kids about nutrition. We go in, we build gardens, and we take those fruits and vegetables into the classroom. I created a program called Kids Kitchen. And so now not only do I get to talk to her, but now my audience has expanded so much from I just want to say, like, it's so important. Like, there's no ego. Maybe there was a little ego in the beginning, because it was like, I hope they notice me. I hope they notice me. Yeah, it was a drive. But to really humbly, through this experience of diving deeper into plants, like we talked about with ayahuasca, I was able to find this flow in life that it's hard for me to explain to people, but everyone has it. You just have to take a step back, take a breath, and listen, because the universe is shouting. It's telling you what to do. It's right here all the time. And we go like this, and we go like this, and we go like this. But
actually, I want to say it's probably right here, because this one back here is usually your belief system telling you, no, don't do that. No, don't do that.
But we gotta
follow the heart.
Follow the heart.
Jiminy Cricket's in there.
Yeah.
It's your little barometer.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Just
Love
listen.
It.
Thank you.
Love it,
Just pay attention to the cues.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a little bit of a break and be right back with Shane and Jeff.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. So it's not a bad idea every now and then to check your battery. If you don't know how to do it, have somebody check it for you. Just a visual inspection can tell you a lot about your battery. So as we can see here, this battery's got a hold down. It's nice and tight. The cables are on. They don't look bad. We've got a cover. We don't see any corrosion. Everything's kind of tight, looking good. A little bit of dirt, that's normal, but nothing's leaking, no real cause for alarm here. So that's a good sign. Doesn't mean it's good, but at least visually we know that it's intact. Okay, so we're looking at a battery here that shows signs of corrosion. We want to test that battery to make sure it's good. Usually when they're getting like this, there's going to be a problem, leaking some acid at the top. We ran the test and we find out it has 396 cold cranking amps, but the battery requires 650. So it's just not enough. The battery is going to go soon. Better to know now than later. Okay, so the benefits of checking the cable is because this cable's rotted out. What we'll find is this is the problem, not the battery. So it'll save you from buying a battery, still having the no start, only to find out that it's a cable. This type of corrosion is common in diesels. Okay, so we're getting ready to jump the car, but we have to have some battery cables. And we have to check those too before we hook them up to the battery. So here we have our standard set of battery cables. We just look them over, see if the ends are frayed, if everything's connected all right. Everything looks good here. Wouldn't hurt to check the rest of the cable just to make sure the dog didn't get it and chew it up. We have red and black. Red's positive, black's negative. You always want to hook the positive up first and then the negative. And I'll show you how that's done right now. Keep these off to the side so they're not touching each other. Hook up your positive. You can find that right here by the plus sign, the negative sign. Plus is positive, red. Make sure that's securely hooked up. Keeping these away from each other. Hook up your negative cable. Just got to fight it on there. Figure out a way to get it. Wiggle it a little bit so it ensures a good connection. Now you're transferring voltage. If I hit these two together, we're going to spark. Kind of want to avoid that. Won't kill you. Kind of fun. A lot of people think if they can turn the headlights on, the battery's fine. That's not always the case. It takes very little amperage to turn a light on, but it takes a lot of amperage to start the starter. I recommend checking the charging system every oil change. At Sun Valley Automotive, there's never a charge for that. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Hello, welcome back to the Health and Wellness Hour. My name is Abram McGrath, Alcazar, and we are coming to you from WWDBTV.com. You can find us on YouTube, and John Stiles is producing today. We're speaking with Shane Stuart and Jeff Renel.
Renel.
Dang!
You're getting closer.
What? I'm just calling you Jeff forevermore. Yeah, I can speak Spanglish, but I can't say your last name. But it's okay. We are getting in a little deeper, kind of digging in there on expanding your consciousness and how it doesn't have to be an overwhelming thing. We are talking with Shane about some of the retreats he's doing and just helping spread the word about self-love and self-care and how that's the most important thing we can do. If we don't have our health, we don't have anything, right? So take it away, guys. What are we talking about next?
You have any
Come
ideas?
on, Jeff.
I mean, there's a lot of good things that you've been bringing up, you know. I think food is very important for a lot of avenues and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I was just sitting here listening to you, fascinated on what you're saying and stuff. But yeah, give us some information about some of the foods and how it can benefit people. I mean, the one thing I find is unique is all the foods have different aspects that help different aspects of the body.
Right.
And what's cool about it is like the avenue that I learned from is learning from the energy, the vibrations of everything, and that everything holds a certain vibration, and that's the way to look at certain things. So like I was mentioning earlier, that certain foods hold certain emotions as well with it too.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you clean yourself
medicine goes a lot along those rounds.
I think a really cool thing going back into this, because this is going to embody all of this, is so when I opened up Grassroots downtown, the mother of my child, my baby's mama, she's vegan. The girl I was dating before her was vegan, and I was pretty much on a plant-based diet, but I've been on and off a vegan diet since I was 18 years old. And when I opened up Grassroots, I for some reason wanted to take the angle of, okay, this place is vegan, we're not harming any animals, this is the vibration we're setting off here. And what ended up happening was as I dived deeper and deeper and deeper into the vegan community, I realized the outreach, that lady that came to me with that fibromyalgia, the people I wanted to reach, started getting smaller and smaller, because instead of broadcasting my message out to the world, I started narrowcasting my message to a closed group community that, for the most part, I know there's a lot of good vegans out there, obviously, but were patting themselves on the back for the life choices that they decided to make, and browbeating the rest of the people that wouldn't jump on board.
It's a trend.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I had to do to really step, and this happened through my journey of self-exploration and really trying to find myself again, and my message was, how do I get back to where my message is reaching everybody? And so the one thing I knew I could do was to completely separate myself from the vegan community. But I was already in so deep, because I have a microphone on, I'm going to vegan events, vegan this, vegan that, vegan all over the place. And I'm like,
fur babies.
And so I was just like, help me, how do I get out of this? How do I find my audience again? And so I did a public post, and I intentionally put things in there that would trigger everybody that was vegan was on Facebook. So I found a picture that looked like a picture of Justin Bieber, but it was me with my hat like this. And then I put a thing on there that says why I'm no longer vegan. And first of all, it wasn't
the declaration,
but I did it in a way that was still like, if you were ready to receive that message, it was still very conscious driven. Like it was, you know, throughout my experience, I always like to be the guy who listens to my body. And I went and got my blood work done. I've noticed some things that weren't right, and I've decided to make the decision to start incorporating meat back in my diet. I really want to do it in the most conscious way that I can, so I want to be mindful of where I receive where I'm getting my meat from.
Absolutely.
And I go, and I also want everyone to be careful that when we watch these documentaries, that everyone that makes, is coming from the background even, who makes the documentary, tells the story, comes from point of view. Even if you're on Google and you want to find something, you could always find the answer that you're looking for. It just depends on where your mind's at and what you're going to put into the search engine.
Right.
And what I knew would get a major lashback was nowhere near what I was about to receive. It went viral. There was over 1,000 comments. It was shared 800 and something times all over the place. It was ended up in vegan forums all over the place. I was getting death threats to my baby, and then other people would. Yeah, someone said, "I'm going to stomp your baby's head in like a baby cattle," or whatever it was. And but what was happening was I was allowing
bad
them,
humans.
I was allowing them and everyone else to see we're not that compassionate, are we?
Right.
Just because we made a decision to stop eating meat, we're not exactly the human beings that we would like everyone to see us.
Right.
And I gave you guys a pretty beautiful explanation of why I decided to start incorporating meat back into my diet. And this is the lashback that I received.
Right.
Videos were made about me, all kinds of stuff. And by far the best decision I have made to date as far as opening up my message again, because now even when people come into Panacea, they go, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing, everything's vegan." I go, "We don't use the V word here. This is all plant-based."
Well, and what's amazing, I love that story
Yeah.
too. Thanks for sharing that, because again, that's showing, it's coming back to love, because you said that they thought they were making a conscious choice to help the world and stuff, but in the same sense they cut the other experience off totally and started to put hatred towards that experience. And unfortunately we're seeing that a lot in politics right now too.
Absolutely.
But that's showing right there the lack of love, and we need to understand and see every aspect of it, especially because I do theta healing, and in that we learn a lot about plants and the conscious end of plants. They are very evolved beings on this world, on this planet, but people don't seem to realize that, and they're eating plants left and right.
They survived Agent Orange. They survived.
Look at the studies of Clive
Crazy.
Baxter. I don't know if you know who Clive Baxter is, but I encourage you to go look him up. Okay, he's on YouTube. He is a guy that did what's that called now? Lie detector tests for the San Francisco Police Department back in the early 60s.
Oh, I have heard of that.
But he hooked up a plant, to one of the machines to test it. He's like, "Oh, if I give it water, it's going to react to it." And so he went and he watered it, and hooked it up to his machine, and he didn't get a reaction. And he's like, well, this should have reacted because of the north and the magnetic poles and everything. And so he's like, why didn't this react? And so he's like, how can I get a reaction from my plant? And he's like, oh, I know, I'll burn it. He goes, but I don't have no matches or anything here, so he had to go to his neighbor's house and go get matches. And so he came back, and by the time he came back, he looked onto his machine. I don't know what it's called, but he looked on his machine, and he saw that the plant had reacted. So he started to look back at when it reacted, and he realized that it reacted the time he had the thought, I will burn it.
Oh, wow.
And so then it gets even more amazing, because then he goes to take the test even further. And obviously he knew his stuff, because if scientists are studying DNA, they have to leave the room because their own thoughts will change the study of the test. Right. And so he organized this test in his house. And he put up a machine that had a random timer on it. He had no idea when it was going to go off. It had some tadpoles in a little dish that was going to eventually pour into a hot boiling bowl of water. And so he had the plant in the other room hooked up to the machine. He put the timer, set everything up. He left, went back into San Francisco, because I guess he lived out of town a little bit, went there and had dinner and everything. And when he came back and looked at the study and stuff, he realized that the plant reacted before the tadpoles even got poured into the boiling water. They knew beforehand. Okay, so these are the tests that he did. Other scientists that saw these tests and went even further and took it even further. And so I saw this one study with some Russian scientists that wanted to take it even further. So they took a cabbage plant, stuck it to the exact same machine that Clive used, and so then they went out to the store and bought heads of cabbage, just regular heads of cabbage, bought it there, had the plant hooked to the machine, started cutting up the heads of cabbage in front of the plant, and the plant's reacting, going crazy. You know, just flipping out. Oh my God, they're killing my brother over there. So then they took it even further and bought another cabbage plant, stuck it next to the one that was hooked to the machine, and one by one they had people walk in to this room and look at the plant and then walk out. And so they had 5 different people. The last person walked into the room, started tearing the plant apart, and this plant is, the other cabbage plant is reacting, of course, flipping out.
Oh my gosh.
The lady walks out of the room, then one by one the people start to walk back into the room, and the plant doesn't react until the last lady walks back in, the one that tore up the plant, and it starts freaking out.
Wow.
So the plants know the difference between all
absolutely.
of us. It is such an advanced being, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
have you ever done tree medicine
to save
like,
the animal compared to the plant, it's apples and oranges. So again, it's our energy of how we do it, how we hold
our
it
intention.
to it. You know, the Indians, the way they used to hunt, they used to pray to find the weak and stuff, the ones that wouldn't last the winter, so the rest of the herds and stuff would go on. And so we need to change our energy the way we're doing it. And I love the way the outlook that you have on everything, the way you're trying to do it. So
you know, it's so interesting. I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is something that I mean, the information, the science is out there. If anyone wants to argue that plants aren't sentient beings, well, I hate to tell you, you just got to go read a book. There's plants that actually can pick their roots up out of the ground and move to another spot and put it back into the ground.
I've never heard about that one yet, but I'm going to look that up.
And if you look at the blood,
it's called the stump jumper in Australia.
Yeah, and if you even look at the blood, the chlorophyll that comes from a plant, it has the same molecular structure as a human being's blood. And so that's why chlorophyll is so amazing. It's like taking more of that river of life into our body. And here we are, not giving plants the credit that they deserve for the intelligence that they possess. And then when we die, guess who eats us? The plant.
Yeah. Well, look at a plant. The plant only takes what it needs to survive, or it only competes enough to take what it needs to survive. And then when it does die, it gives back more than what it ever took from the beginning. And it's also the system underneath plants is amazing too, because there's this amazing system underground that's working, where the plants are feeding this system,
or the aspens that are connected.
And all this.
You know, you could go on and on. Trees are my thing. Trees are my thing, but
that's some beautiful
I
stuff.
went to Balboa Park recently, and there's a huge ficus tree, and I have to visit it. I visited ever since I was a little girl, and and they said, oh, there's another tree, 100-year-old tree on the other side. Have you been there? So we go in between the other museums, and there's a fence around this tree, and I started crying uncontrollably. I was like, the tree doesn't get to interact with anybody. Like, they put a fence around this tree. My friend hops the fence, and security comes over. He's like, there was never a fence here before. Why is there a fence now? I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen to the tree? You know, my mind is going there like, it's providing shade. It's the giving tree. It's the giving tree. Silverstein. Anyway.
Yeah, the plants are constantly giving, even.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I just felt my heart went out for that tree, and I was like, wow, my mind just cracked open. Like, that's what we're doing here, is cracking open brains.
What I would say, I know this, my testimony is that I've spent long enough dealing with the healing aspect of plants. But plants are not only the greatest healers, they're the greatest teachers. And there's this ancient old prophecy that is held by the indigenous people, and it's called the Eagle Condor prophecy. And the eagle represents technology in the Western world, and the condor represents the indigenous culture and their medicine. And they said once the eagle was to rise in consciousness, where technology can catch up and they can bring their medicine over, consciousness would spread like wildfire, and the two Americas would come back together again, the eagle and the condor. And I know for sure my approach is completely changed on teaching people how to eat healthy. First of all, if I can start to convince people that plants are our allies, that they are here to take us to the promised land, because they have everything we need here. If we can just embrace them. And it's not that eating meat is destroying our rainforest. It's because you brought up the environment a few times. It's just unconscious human beings with unsustainable practice that are just pull, and it's not just from eating meat and destroying the rainforest. It's everywhere. Yeah. And so we just need to take a step back and go, okay, what are we doing? And it always does go back to the self-love. But when it comes to food, I heard Michael Pollan said in one of his books, I think in The Defense of Food, eat food not too much, mostly plants. So
yes, I love that.
It's really about finding that balance
90%.
again. But Panacea means the cure-all, the elixir of life. That's the meaning of Panacea. The logo through Panacea is a rose. When people go, oh, okay, Panacea means the cure-all, the elixir of life, so appropriate because the food that's coming out of here. I go, food has nothing to do with it. You could eat this food all day long and be sitting in front of the news watching the world unravel right before your very eyes and have the most acidic environment you could possibly. The best food you got going on right here is here. And it's here. Exactly. And they have these laughing clinics. I'm sure you guys have heard of them where you can go abroad and they bring in comedians. We
have one
and
here.
Laughing yoga.
Yeah, we have it here.
And just boosting the serotonin, releasing the stress levels.
Yeah.
And
you get so elevated coming out of that room. I mean, it might as well smoked a joint. Like, seriously. Yeah. So you have been your authentic self this whole time, and that's why I said you're my favorite person in Las Vegas to this day. You don't make me cry. Don't.
Thank you.
Seriously, like, you embody evolution, and I love that. And that's what we're here for, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just got to say, she just brought me over to Panacea. Is that am I saying right?
Yeah.
And I forget what smoothie I had now, but it had the rose in there. And
was it the eagle?
At first, it was a little bit different because
Divine
I'm used to
feminine.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm used to the rose being more of like a perfume and so it took me a second. I told her to get used to it, but then it was just once I got used to drinking it, it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
The rose,
and
it sets up more electromagnetic currents than any other plant around. It symbolizes the blooming of consciousness, like the lotus flower does in Eastern culture.
Nice.
It's the gift of love. It's everything. The rose is really, I mean, if you even read Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, he said maybe that's how the first sign of consciousness took place, is when the flower and the fragrance blew and flowers started popping all over the earth. And so it's really, it's like, who knows where we're going. I think people were talking about consciousness and the world waking up in the 1940s.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe it's just
earlier, too.
This ongoing cycle. But the one thing I
epoch.
do know is that people are starting to choose themselves these days more than going with what they feel is a right and appropriate. If you want to write a book today, you don't have to go out and find a publisher anymore. You can go out and self-publish and put a book
it's
like
a
that.
new value system.
Yeah.
Monetary value is not what it used to be. We're filling the cups.
Yeah. And the only reason
that's
why
what you need to do too. You need to fill it with your own self-love.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I bring that up is because disease is just by people not loving their life. Don't even worry about the spinach and all that stuff right now. Shit, go find what you love. Go do it. Go change the world. Go do something amazing. And then here's a green shot to celebrate your day.
And if you need a little inspiration, put Shane's name in on
go
YouTube.
Find some of his
Shane
books.
Stuart, and he's all over the place. Yeah,
go find some good greens. And I love all your places. Greens and Protein is delicious. I love that place. I've been there a few times.
Panacea Grassroots, Catalyst Creative from back in the day. I saw him. We had our own like TED Talks of Las Vegas going on downtown, where we brought masterminds from all over the world. Amanda Selvin did that. Yeah. She was a remarkable girl.
Yeah.
And, that's where I first saw Shane on stage. And after that, I was like, man, this guy's moving mountains, and I want to be part of that team. So, yeah, it's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
So awesome.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you, man. Thank you so much.
And thank you for our studio audience today coming. So,
yay!
Yes, thank you. Thanks again for listening to the Health and Wellness Hour. My name is Abra McGrath Alcazar, and we'll see you next time.